Baseball, the New York Game, Chapters 5 and 6. Amateur baseball became more distant in the rearview mirror by 1869 due to the advent of the Cincinnati Red Stockings, the forerunners of professional baseball, dramatically shifting the game's outlook. 2 years later, the National Association of Professional Baseball Players originated. Unfortunately, due to the inability of the ball players' business acumen, the association lasted only 5 years. William Hulbert, a Chicago coal merchant, dearly wanted to wrest the powers away from the corrupt Eastern teams as he sought good talent to lure quality prospects to the Chicago White Stockings. The success of the Boston Red Stockings, who won the championship in 4 of the 5 years of the association's existence, yielded a young star pitcher named Al Spalding, who Hulbert wooed to Chicago. Spalding was also an astute businessman from the time he and his brother opened a sporting goods store to the time he wore the first gloves for protection. As the National League began to flourish, and nearly 140 years later, the name Spalding resounds in the world of sporting goods. With the growth of the National League, the United States moved away from the Reconstruction era to the Gilded Age, sparked by the advent of industrialization due to the tremendous growth of industry and technology. In addition, the success of the industrialists like Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt, and J.P. Morgan, also known as robber barons, followed in lockstep by the baseball team's owners. The game enjoyed a burgeoning growth which fostered the opportunity for other leagues to stake a claim. However, drawbacks to this success came in the form of revolving, whereby a player who had a good year would seek a higher bid for his services, leaving the current owner at a loss to replace that talent. Hence, the reserve clause, initiated by the owners in 1880, restricted the movement of the ball players by instituting terms that bound the player to a team for longer periods of time. The clause lasted for nearly 100 years. In 1882, the American Association, also known as the Beer and Whiskey League, provided strong competition that continued until 1891 by undercutting practices of the National League and permitted the serving of alcohol. Other leagues that formed lasted for shorter periods of time in aborted attempts to forestall the restrictive reserve clause. The National League then held a roost over baseball for 10 years. At the same time, there came an explosion in immigration, but there was a heavy price to be paid, as the industrialists spawned the monopolies of oil, steel, and transportation. The influx of immigrants lived under the most squalid conditions. An honest portrayal of the deplorable conditions that the immigrants endured can be found in muckraker Jacob Rief's book, How the Other Half Lives. To add to this blight, the corruption wrought by Tammany Hall ran rampant through the New York Police Department. Shakedowns in the dubious form of protection was the order of the day. The public was hostage. Fortunately, many who could not tolerate the vices and vicissitudes of the New York Police Department determined to take a stand. To that end, Reverend Charles Parkhurst preached vitriolic sermons to his congregation against the persistent vagaries of the New York Police Department, so much so that others, such as Teddy Roosevelt and Mark Twain, began to pick up the cry for justice. When Albany addressed the issue, a special committee headed by Senator Clarence Lexow came together in 1894, which dealt a severe blow to Tammany Hall. Automation in the working place shortened the hours of the workday, giving the employees the opportunity to play ball after work. In addition, the advancement of manufacturing through mass production helped the teams procure greater amounts of equipment in a shorter time. baseball became entrenched in the nation's popular culture. The need for reform had been building by this time as industrialization of the Gilded Age had transformed American society. Ultimately, the election of 1896 assured the prosperity of the progressive era. Indeed, at this time, the game of baseball also harbored on a major transition with the future looking bright ahead.